I was carrying some significant anxiety that I always knew I experienced. There has always been a low hum of anxiety in the way that I would think about life and move through situations. It's also something that I'm aware that runs through my bloodline, but it wasn't until I became pregnant with my son and my capacity changed physically, emotionally, and mentally, that this anxiety essentially grew and exacerbated, and to the point where I had extreme worry that the life that I thought that I was going to be able to lead in terms of career, goals wasn't going to happen in the ways that I would have liked them to happen, or in the time frame that I would have wanted them to happen. Fear that the way that I would be perceived, not just by myself, but by others, and what productivity wasn't going to be something positive because my capacity had changed, and having a child and moving to Edmonton from Toronto and just having a huge transition, multiple transitions, I should say, over the last 5 years. So I think for me, that all of that created a level of heaviness that made it really difficult to align myself with the truth of who God called me as a wife, as a woman, as a mother. And so it really wasn't until last year, 2024, where I had to really redefine what my identity was in Christ in all of those different spheres of my life. But yeah, so what I was carrying was anxiety, significant stress that led to that. So attached to anxiety, fear, worry. Also, I would say some deep-rooted negative core beliefs of inadequacy, that if I wasn't able to produce, clearly I idolized external production like I think a lot of us do. So, feeling that feeling of inadequacy was just kind of rooted in recognizing or identifying my value in the things that I would do, or what would be on paper as being good or not good. What's helped me to slow down, first of all, is being able to redefine, as I was saying, my identity in God in all the different spheres of my life: womanhood, wifehood, and motherhood. The other thing is being able to also rework and redefine marriage. I'm someone who's married, and just based on my traumas and my family history, my household that I grew up in, and seeing things that were not done well and not necessarily done in the healthiest way, it allowed me to adopt a mentality of marriage that was not biblical and skewed. And so part of what I was navigating was having to redefine that in order for me to feel free and to fully operate in the role, in the office of wife that I've been created to walk in. Surrender for me was scary because I've recognized that control is something that felt safe for me, right? And even when it was being held onto and it wasn't healthy for me, I think surrender has been scary for me for the sake of relinquishing that. What has been normal to me for so many years is now becoming something that I am having to completely trust God with. And as much as there have been pieces that I've trusted God with, to fully surrender my full heart, my full being to His will and His way is still something on a daily basis I'm having to kind of rework. So I wouldn't say that I have fully surrendered. I feel like in our humanity, it can be really difficult sometimes to do that, especially, as I said, we've normalized not doing that. But I think it also has been, not I think, it has been freeing as well, because I know that I don't have to carry it all. Just in even looking at the example of Christ Himself, in His resurrection and in His death, knowing that He sympathizes, He empathizes with our sufferings and our challenges, the things that we feel are really difficult. Being able to know that we have that in our Father has been very, very, very freeing for me. And of course, leaning into community, not just my husband, but also the new individuals that have come into my life as of the last 2 years. And also having some tough conversations with some long-term friends who I had often been the one to have the listening ear for, but who never necessarily made the space for me to have that space when I needed to be vulnerable and when I needed to be poured back into. And I think I also, in holding myself accountable, didn't always offer that. So I think what has been freeing and leaning into community is also being willing and accepting some hard conversations that needed to happen so that I could seek and ask for the emotional and physical support that I needed.